Okay, resetters, 3 signs your poop isn't healthy. And if you're not looking at your poop, you're gonna wanna look at your poop after this, I promise you. So let's dive into what you need to know about the health of your poop and what does it say about your body. First thing I want you to know, again, if I go high level, is that your poop is how you're getting toxins out of you. So it's really, really important you have a daily bowel movement. If you're not having a daily bowel movement, all of those toxins are getting caught inside of you. And when toxins are in you, they destroy your hormones, they destroy your brain, they lead to chronic disease. I've sat with so many patients where I've just been really, truly blown away at how they've accepted a bowel movement every 3 days or every once a week. I mean, I had a patient years ago that had a bowel movement every month. It was and she really had a lot of toxic issues that we had to overcome. So first thing I want you to focus on is the person I want to address is the person who is getting constipated, because if you are getting constipated regularly, your poop's not only, just because you can't see it in the toilet, it's not healthy. And it's not healthy for a variety of reasons. So for starters, remember that you have these little villi in the inner lining of your gut, and they're pushing the stools out of you. You know when you feel that gurgling inside your body and you're oh yeah, there's you ate something or you're hungry? That's the villi sometimes moving and trying to move things through you. And the villi get destroyed by steroids, birth control, stress, toxic foods. So we got to bring the health of the villi back, and what they love is fiber. This is why fiber is so great for constipation. The more fiber you eat, the more you reinvigorate these villi. So make sure that you're doing that. The other piece, and this is something that's not being talked a lot about, it's in my new book. I'm really excited as I'm writing the next book to really bring this to light, especially for menopausal women. And it's called low vagal tone. So vagal tone is the measurement of your vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve is the nerve that carries information from your gut up into your brain. And so when your vagus nerve is shut down because of stress, that's how it gets shut down. You get too into your sympathetic nervous system. You're too in fight or flight all the time. So the vagus nerve gets depleted, and now you have low vagal tone. Everything in the digestive system slows down, and so you'll have more constipation. So I know the video is about the health of your poop, but the first thing, it's I couldn't do this video without explaining to you that constipation is a sign of unhealthy poop because it's not getting out of you. And the villi are important and the vagal tone is important. And the other thing before I move on to the next one that you can look at when you look at your poop is remember that the diversity of foods matter to your microbiome. So if you know that these villi, you resonated with what I said about that, not only will fiber help, but diversity of vegetables, diversity of foods will bring back the health of your microbiome. Fasting helps too because it gets rid of the bad one, and then reintegrating the 3 Ps, I wrote about that in Fast Like a Girl, will help to bring that diversity back up. Second one, this is really interesting. The presence of mucus in your stools. Now this is big. There's 2 things, and not to get too personal, but there are 2 things that I do after every bowel movement, or 2 things I look for. I go back and I look. When I'm peeing, I look at the color of my urine. If my urine is really yellow and I haven't been doing supplements, I know I may be dehydrated and I need to be able to look at hydrating myself more. With poop, if there's mucus in there, that's a sign your body's fighting an infection. Remember, whether it's mucus in your nose, mucus in your chest, your body creates mucus to fight an infection. That's what it does. So we want to make sure that if you have any mucus in your stools that you may be fighting an infection. There is a whole immune system going on in your gut. And so it will release mucus into the stools as they move along your small and large intestine. And it could be a sign that you're fighting an infection. Okay, the third one, and this is a biggie, and that's the smell. I want you to know when you are eating a healthy diet that your stools should not smell. So really, I can't emphasize this enough. So if you have smelly stools, and this even goes for flatulence, so if you have smelly gas, that is a sign of gut dysbiosis. And gut dysbiosis is just a fancy term for there is an imbalance of bad bacteria and good bacteria. So the bad bacteria may be winning and the good bacteria are not. If there's the presence that maybe you have too many bad bacteria and not enough good, my favorite strategy for that, throw a 24-hour fast at it, Let's get rid of all of those bad bacteria. Let's re-energize the intestinal stem cells so we can repair the inner lining of the gut. And now we're going to bring this balance of good and bad bacteria. We're going to primarily get rid of the bad, and we have an opportunity to grow the good. And then after your 24-hour fast, add in the 3 Ps, the polyphenol, probiotic, and prebiotic foods that I spoke about in Fast Like a Girl. So let's bring microbial balance back, because those bad bacteria can often smell if they're winning. The other smell piece can be from a food allergy. You know, you're not absorbing gluten. I mean, again, not to get too personal, but why not go there? You may gluten and dairy are 2 of the biggest food allergies that you're going to want to address. So you might want to make sure that you look at those and remove those first. Remove dairy, pasteurized dairy. If you can switch over to goat or sheep is fine, or you can switch over to raw cow's dairy. Those tend to be better. And remove gluten and see if the smell goes away. If it does, bingo, you got your answer. The other piece is that we can look at the presence of this, like I said, when we look at a food allergy in general, what we can start to do is to heal that food allergy. If you're like, I don't want to get rid of my gluten and my dairy, what we can start to do is take enzymes. So there are gluten and lactose enzymes. I don't know why the world got really used to lactate. I know it's a brand, but lactose enzymes to break down dairy, but we never did it with gluten. So what if we start to take some enzymes to help break down that food so that it's easier on our digestive system, and see if that changes the smell? So that's another piece of this. And then the last piece, and one that I really, really want to emphasize, is toxins. So a lot of you that are eating toxic ingredient. Now, what's a toxic ingredient? If you're not reading your ingredient list, please read your ingredient list. Every food you put in your mouth, you should know what the ingredients are. And if there's words that look like a chemistry experiment, they're probably chemicals. Unfortunately, I can tell you here in America, we have so many chemicals that are allowed in our foods that are dangerous, and it's horrible. So just because it's in a restaurant, just because it's in your grocery store, does not mean that it's safe for your health. And when we're eating more of these ingredients that are man-made, when we start to see these chemicals in our food, they will make our stools smell. So this is why it's always good to check your stools, to smell afterwards, to like be aware of these subtleties. But don't, we can make fun of the smell of our stools, but it could be life-changing if you could use the hacks that I just mentioned and really dive into making sure that your stools are healthy. And ultimately, what I would tell you want to see with your stools, you want to have it daily. It shouldn't smell, and you should be able to get a bowel movement out of you very quickly. If those are not happening, then we've got some gut issues we've got to address.
I want to talk about blood pressure, but I'm going to talk about it from 2 different angles that you've most likely never heard about. The first is we're going to talk about some really interesting subtle signs that your blood pressure is going up. And the second is I want to share with you a very specific unifying principle that you can use to look at your diet, to look at your stress, to look at your sleep. This one principle, if you master it, you will master blood pressure. So I'm so excited to share it with you. Okay, blood pressure. Everything that I have taught you all here on this channel is to help you crawl into your body and understand what your body is doing. So with high blood pressure, what happens is we go into the doctor's office, they take our blood pressure, and the first thing that they say to you is it's genetic, right? Put it in the comments, like how many of us have been told, your parents had it, your sister has it, your brother has it, so therefore you're gonna have it. When we look at genes, I just want to be very clear that when we're looking at genes, if you have a genetic profile for high blood pressure and you match that with the same lifestyle that your family lived, yes, it's most likely going to trigger that gene. But if you make a decision to live a different lifestyle, that gene doesn't have to be triggered. And that is a concept called epigenetics. So I just want to put that there at the beginning of this conversation. Now, the second thing is when we look at the spectrum of health, what I want you to realize is that disease is over here and optimal health is here. And so what happens is as we live a poor lifestyle or life gets a hold of us, sometimes it's hard for us to know where we are in our trajectory towards health or towards disease. But lifestyle stressors, physical, emotional, and chemical stressors start piling on. And what ends up happening is we start moving away from optimal health and we move into chronic disease. But this in-between is where I want you to clue in on what might be leading you towards cardiovascular disease, which is ultimately why we want blood pressure to be balanced. And I've taught you all this with fasting. I've mentioned this several times that if you're hangry, you can't go without food, that's a sign that the mitochondria are unhealthy. So when you start to fast, you repair those mitochondria. With blood pressure, when we get signs like you go from laying down or seated to standing and you get dizzy, so the room starts to spin, that's an indication that we're moving towards a high blood pressure cardiovascular challenge. The other thing is when we get just lightheaded in general, and you're standing in the room and the room starts spinning, that's another blood pressure issue. And then the last one, and this shows up in fasters a lot, so we're going to talk about this in a moment, is when you start getting heart palpitations. So what I have seen now, I just want to point out, I have a genetic history of high blood pressure in my family. So I watch these three things very, very closely. I watch, if I'm standing up, I get dizzy. It's a sign that I need to work on my nervous system, and I'm going to talk about this here in a moment. When I'm just standing and I feel a little woozy and the room's spinning, again, my brain goes to, it's time for me to look at bringing in the tools that balance blood pressure, and I'm going to share those tools with you here in a moment. And when I start getting heart palpitations, especially when I go into some of the longer fasts, I remind myself that I need to work on balancing what we call our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. I'll teach you that in a moment. So we want to look at these subtle signs because that's where we will start to catch it and we can make a lifestyle change quickly so that we don't end up in a cardiovascular situation, which is, again, ultimately why we're looking at blood pressure. So with that in mind, here's the one principle I want you to think about. And it all boils down to metabolic switching. And you might be like, wait a second, I thought metabolic switching was moving from food to fasting to lose weight. So yes, that is one piece of metabolic switching. But when we look at it from a blood pressure standpoint, we're looking at metabolic switching not only with your food and your fasting, but switching from your parasympathetic to your sympathetic nervous system. Learning how to go in and out of these two opposing nervous systems. Just like your metabolism has two opposing types of metabolism, your nervous system has the same thing. So let me start with the metabolic switching that I've taught you all here, which is fat burner, sugar burner, and how does that relate to your blood pressure? So one thing that I don't know, I feel like people don't know enough of, and many experts, many studies, Robert Lustig is one of the primary drivers of this concept, and it is that blood pressure raising high is a blood sugar issue. It is not a fat issue. I'm going to say that again. It is not a fat issue. It is a blood sugar issue. So you're going to want to learn how to balance your blood sugar. And there are two ways you can do that. The first is through metabolic switching, where you're going to go sugar burner part of the day, and then you're going to leave time for fasting. The research on blood pressure shows that when we go somewhere between 17 and 24 hours of fasting, that's in this fasted state, we start to see the blood pressure, our whole cardiovascular system start to regulate itself. So you want to make sure that when you're dipping into the fat burner system that you're using a little longer fast to start to repair that system. I did a whole video just on fasting and blood pressure alone. I'm sure my team will tag it here so you can go watch that video. So that's the first thing when it comes to food. The second thing is now this is where fat and sugar and our poor diet comes into play. Remember when we're eating the wrong oils, when we're eating refined flours and refined sugars, and we're eating toxic ingredients, our blood sugar is going up. And that is a crisis to the body. So when blood sugar stays high, blood pressure goes up because the body is like, hey, we're in a crisis. We got to do something here. So blood pressure is a sign the body is perceiving its internal environment, potentially its external environment, as a crisis. So when we look at food and fasting to handle blood sugar, I want to make sure, again, I can't say this enough, I want to make sure that you are bringing down your refined carbohydrate load, that you're eating the right fats, and that you are avoiding toxins. That is like square, you gotta make sure you're doing that. And then you're dipping, metabolically switching into some of these longer fasts, 17 to 24 hours. And then you're switching back and you're going into this good food. That is incredible for just that alone is incredible for your blood pressure. But the other switch I want you to make is I want you to learn how to go from your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and your digest nervous system, over into your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight. This one's not as easy because we live in a really stressful world. So I call it practicing parasympathetic. Most of us have that sympathetic nervous system that is like revved up and ready to go. And we just haven't practiced the parasympathetic nervous system. Just like so many of you hadn't practiced the fat burning system. So we want to look at switching in and out of both of these, and they're both metabolic switches, right? So how do you practice parasympathetic? Well, this is the problem. It's a little torturous, I'm not gonna lie. This is your meditation. This is your slowing down. I've talked a lot on here about like going for walks when your stress gets high to make sure that you're using cortisol. This is getting out in the sun. There's a long list of them. But it also means pacing yourself and not getting into that type A rush all the time because you stay in fight or flight. Now, why I've got higher dose here and why I love using them to practice parasympathetic is because I am a rushing woman. I struggle to relax myself. I'm full transparency. And so I found both their sauna blanket and their PEMF to be the tranquilizer that I need. No joke. So this mat that I'm sitting on, the PEMF mat, actually sits on my couch. And at the end of the day, when I've been in sympathetic the whole time, I sit on this thing and it's like, it just tranquilizes me and it starts to build up that parasympathetic. So now, if the one thing that works about a mat like this is it's grounding. So just like earth is grounding. So if you don't have a PEMF mat, then go out into your backyard, take your shoes off and walk around on the ground, reconnect yourself to nature. This just does it in a very quick and easy way. So and then you got to prioritize sleep. You got to look at meditation habits. You got to look at some breath work. There's a lot of ideas here around practicing parasympathetic. It is like training for a marathon, but you're training to calm yourself down. Now, the sauna blanket, what I love about it is it actually accomplishes both metabolic switches. So it's not only when we get infrared into our body and we heat up the cells from the inside out, what ends up happening is that you start to relax yourself, which is great. So we practice parasympathetic. But then a really cool thing about a sauna blanket is that it's also going to get rid of those cells that have been saturated with bad fats and saturated with sugar and toxins. I love fasting with the sauna blanket because now we're getting rid of those old cells that are causing your metabolic switch to be off, causing blood pressure to go up while you're building a lifestyle that's really healthy. So really, really important. I don't want you to miss this, that there's two switches here that you want to be focused on to balance blood pressure. You want to focus on the nervous system switch, going sympathetic to parasympathetic, and you want to focus on the metabolic switch that I've been teaching here, fasting and good food. When you prime those, I do not care how many people in your family have blood pressure that's high. You can overturn that diagnosis by changing your lifestyle. That is what we now know based off of massive amount of research done on epigenetics. But it takes lifestyle. There's a lifestyle cure literally for everything. And when you start to look at the root of every single lifestyle cure, it has to do with this metabolic switch. So again, let me know. And here's what I love. We're such a great community here on YouTube. Put in the comments. Have you noticed since you've been practicing the sugar burner, fat burner system, have you noticed that your blood pressure has gone down? I'd love to hear everybody's opinion on that. Second, if you've been practicing parasympathetic, sympathetic, and using some special hacks, put it in the comments. We're a community and we can all learn from each other. But what I don't want you to do is to fall prey that your only answer is that it's genetic and it's medication. I really want to bring lifestyle back into every chronic disease issue. And on blood pressure, this is a huge one because you can overturn it when you look at those two different switches.
Okay, check this out. I have a free fasting guide for you all. It's free. And it's going to teach you all the basics of fasting. It's going to teach you how to kill hunger when you fast, which is really cool. And it's going to show you how to break your fast, among many other things. All you got to do is click on this link right here and enjoy. We're going to talk about some real red flags that will help you understand if you are depleted in nutrients. This is a really important topic. I know a lot of you spend a lot of money on supplements. I do not want you wasting money on supplements. I want you to understand what a supplement would even do to your body. And more importantly, I want you to understand your body. So on this video, we're going to go through three really pivotal ways to look at your body to know that you're nutrient depleted. And then we'll talk about what we can do about it. So let's dive in. For starters, let's address the issue of how do you get nutrients into a cell. So here's the way I look at it. Your cells, I'm just going to blow them up. Your cells, you have these big cells. And actually you got like 72 trillion, they say. I don't know who counted, but they have trillions of cells in your body. And when we blow them up really big, around the outside of the cell is a bilipid membrane. So this bilipid membrane, the way I like to look at it, I remember when I was in school, I loved chemistry, and I would be like looking those microscopes and you could see all the cells. I always thought that was so cool. But the way that I look at cells is like they're amoebas, like they're breathable. And so you need good fats around that outer lipid membrane. This is why I'm always coming in strong for you all, like good fats, not bad fats, please, because we've got to be able to have this porous membrane that invites nutrients in. So you got to have that membrane intact. We also have receptor sites. So things like vitamin D go in through these receptor sites. They're like gates. They're like, hey, come on into the cell. And what we often notice is that with endocrine disruptors, like even like beauty products, skincare products, all the toxins in the world, they block those gates. And now you're taking things like vitamin D, you're taking it, and you can't get that nutrient into the cell. So the mechanics of the cell are really important for this conversation, because if your body is full of toxins, if you're eating the wrong fats, then you're not going to be able to get nutrients in, which might lead to the signs that I'm talking about here. So I want to lay that foundation first. Okay, so here's the first red flag, and this one's really interesting. I want you to think it through with me. The first sign that you are nutritionally struggling and that your body needs more nutrients is when we start to see changes to hair and nails. Okay, why would that be? Again, your body has one focus, and that's to survive. So if it's not getting the nutrients it needs into the cell, it gets rid of the extraneous stuff, the things that are not necessary for your survival. Well, as much as we love our hair, or some of us, as much as we need hair, some of us, then, it's just not necessary for my survival. And my nails, same thing, not necessary for my survival. So when we start to see that your hair is either thinning or changing or falling out, this is a big one that happens to fasters. What's falling out It's your body saying, hey, we're not getting nutrients into the cell. We need more nutrients. So keep that in mind. That's one of them. Nails, the changes to the nails. So I look at my nails all the time, and you can tell, I don't do my nails. But part of the reason why is I like to look at them so that I can see, do they have ridges? How fast are they growing? Those are the kind of things, like when my nails don't grow fast, I have to kind of ask myself why, and then remind myself that I'm probably not getting enough nutrients into my body to allow those nails to grow. So when we look at the priority system of the body, when it's nutrient deficient, it's like hair's out, stop growing nails, don't need them. So that would be a really important first sign. Second thing I want to point out, and this, you're going to see this general theme through so many of my videos because I want to help you all with weight loss. And one of the things we know is that when you're incredibly nutrient deficient, your body doesn't burn fat. It's not a priority. It's in survival mode. It doesn't have what it needs to be able to make your brain work right. And it needs your brain to work right so you can go and run away from the tiger. The brain is orchestrating everything. So the first sign, like the baby sign, is that your hair stops growing, it changes, and your nails stop growing. So, and you stop burning fat. Those are kind of the big biggies. Second sign that you need more nutrients. Oh my gosh, I love this one. And it's something that is going to save you a tremendous amount of money. So when you take a supplement, you should feel an effect. Think about that for a moment. How many of us take supplements and we just take them because we think they're going to be good? We've been told we should take them, but we don't really feel anything from them. We just pop them in our mouth and we're like, yeah, I don't really feel anything from that. A high quality supplement that is received by the body should be felt. Like you should feel it. Like if you're taking a good multi, you should have a burst of energy. If you're taking an amino acid, you should know your brain is all of a sudden has more clarity. So if you're taking a supplement and you're not seeing that result, you either are taking the wrong supplement, it's either a bad supplement, and please be cautious about the quality of the supplements you take. Please. There's toxins in them. There's a lot of people that are out there scamming you for your money that just, there's no nutritional value. So if you've been taking a supplement over and over and over again, you're like, I don't think it's working. I don't know if it's working. Usually if you say, I don't know it's working, it means it's not working. So you want to get rid of that supplement and maybe pulse in a higher quality supplement. I can tell you in all the years I've worked with patients, that's exactly what I do is I pulse in and out supplements. We never stay on the same supplement. So if you're taking a supplement, you don't notice a difference. It could be that you need to change your supplement, or the second thing is you could be massively depleted. So this is a key concept. I've been trying to find the right words on how to explain this to you all. And so I'm going to try it this way today. So you tell me if this works. But what happens to us when we come to our health and we start to make really positive changes is sometimes we're in a really deep hole. And so we start making all these changes and we just don't see an effect. But it doesn't mean that the changes aren't working. It's like seeds, right? When you plant a seed, like it's not like you see, every day you don't go out and look at the top of the soil and be like, did you grow? Did you grow? Did you grow? Like eventually one day it pops out of the soil. So your health could be so deep into depletion that you're taking supplements over and over and over again and high quality ones and you're not noticing a difference. That would be a sign you need more nutrients. But it's a tough one because I just said that if you take a supplement, you don't notice a difference, it could be a bad supplement. But it also could be you're that depleted. So please just know your quality of supplements. And I will, by the way, put one of my favorite places to get supplements from. You can also always go to my website. All of those have been vetted. Every supplement I ever bring you has been vetted. So if you're confused on supplements, please go to my website. I'll also put a link to some of my favorite resources and places you can go in the notes here. So, but if you're not feeling a difference after a supplement, it may be that you need more nutrients. Third sign. Normal bodily functions are no longer working properly. So think about it. If you're nutrient depleted, the first thing the body gets rid of is the hair and nails. It's like whatever, doesn't care about that. But if you stay nutrient depleted for too long, then it's going to go into things like tanking your energy. Okay, well, why would it tank your energy? Because it needs to reserve its resources. So it doesn't want you to be energetic. It doesn't want you to get up and move around because it's got a limited amount of resources. So we've got to go in and give it more resources so the energy pops up. I have seen this most clearly in the mitochondria of every cell. Your mitochondria is the battery of the cell. It needs ketones. It needs CoQ10. It needs NAD. There's a lot of key nutrients that those mitochondria need to be able to give you energy. So the minute you don't have energy, think of it as limited resources. We need to power up your mitochondria. The other thing that I've seen a lot is when you are a slow wound healer. So this is a great example. If you cut your finger, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, wow, that seems to be taking a long time to heal. I'll tell you where I had this recently is I was at a regenerative clinic in Florida and they were doing an IV and they put the IV in and there was all of a sudden some blood started to come out. It was like the needle moved a little bit and blood started gushing out. And it wasn't clotting very fast. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. Why is my blood not clotting quickly? And it was just an aha of like, maybe I need to think about adding more nutrients in. Maybe I need to look at diversifying my diet better. But I didn't look at it like, oh, it was the nurse practitioner's problem. I looked at it more as like, that's fascinating. My body's is not clotting. So some of you might notice that in wound healing. You also might notice it by you start catching colds a lot. You're just like, oh my God, the person sneezes next to me and I'm sick. That can be a sign you really need to improve your nutrient profile and bring those nutrients up. Sleep is another one. Sleep and magnesium. Oh my gosh, if you're not sleeping well, magnesium is your go-to. So maybe all of a sudden you got bad sleep. Maybe muscle cramping. You're like working out and you're not recovering from your workouts, or you're extremely sore after your workouts. Or maybe you're in the middle of a workout and you're cramping. Again, your body might need more nutrients. Otherwise, it's having these adverse reactions. So what's really interesting to me is that when we look at symptoms in our culture, we villainize them. But this third thing that I'm bringing to you is really, let's look at these symptoms that may be reoccurring and emerging for you and realize that your body might be saying, hey, remember me? I need more nutrients. When symptoms happen, they're not there they're not working against us. Our body is saying, hey, there's a deficit here. Can you please address the deficit? And so we have to go looking for what that is. And when it comes to nutrients, the biggest ones are what I just shared: wound healing, the hair and nails, immune function, energy, sleep. I would probably say the last thing, the SOS, like crisis of all nutrient deficiencies, would be brain fog. Because your body's so smart. It knows that you need your brain to go and get food. So it's going to make that the last place it pulls nutrients from. So if you have chronic brain fog, it's an SOS. We need more nutrients. So again, I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some idea on how to read the body, because we look at these symptoms and oftentimes we we're going to go at the symptom and blame it. But your body's always talking to you. It's always trying to help you out. We just got to listen. And we weren't given the manual. So I'm giving you the manual now. So as always, let me know if that helps. I'm really trying to come at your health from as many angles as possible and really help you understand this miracle that you've been given. But don't give up on yourself. Please, 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 please. You are always healing. Your body always wants to heal. So if it's not healing at the speed you want it to heal, then let's dive into how do we go about that. And it might be you need more nutrients. So as always, I hope that helps. Okay, where are my gals that are struggling with hormonal imbalance? Bloated, feeling like you're not making progress with weight loss? You need to add these foods in so that you can support better hormonal health. There is a lifestyle that estrogen wants you to live, and there's a lifestyle that progesterone wants you to live.